Welcome to The Light, and today I'm going to provide a case update in the case of Jacqueline Mimi Torres-Garcia out of Torrington, Connecticut. And specifically, we're going to be focusing on Jonatan Nanita, who is one of three charged in this case. Now, the end of this past January 2026, Jonathan had requested a probable cause hearing to see if there was enough evidence to go forward with charging him with a homicide charge and the kidnapping charges of Mimi Torres-Garcia. Now, clearly my title here shows that the judge did find probable cause to proceed with this murder case against Jonatan Nanita, and the charge is filed. However, I'm looking at some of the updates in this case. It did take the judge 2 weeks to even get to this decision after hearing all of the evidence in this case. So I want to take a step back and cover some of the evidence and many of the witnesses that came forward, because there was a lot of information that we found out about the case. If you have not heard about Jacqueline Mimi Torres-Garcia's case, please make sure that you are following me. I have multiple videos that I've posted on our case on my account. You'll find them throughout. I am looking forward to hit 10K just so that I can get all of my court cases in a playlist on my channel. That function will be available once I hit that amount of followers. Now, a very quick summary of her case is that Jacqueline's body was found in a bin dumped behind an abandoned home in New Britain in October of 2025 in Connecticut. Investigators had discovered that she had been deceased for a year at that point, unfortunately. Now, Jonatan Nanita, who we're talking about today, is one of three people who was arrested in connection with her death. Her mother, Carla Garcia, was also arrested in connection, as well as Carla Garcia's sister, Jacqueline Garcia. And they were accused of abusing and starving Jacqueline Mimi Torres-Garcia to death and covering it all up. So that's the very quick summary. There's a lot more to it. Again, you can check out my other videos. But let's get into what we're talking about today, Jonatan Nanita's case. Now, Jonatan Nanita's probable cause case lasted 2 days, and the state brought forth, it says, 10 witnesses in total. And one of the most interesting, they said, was a worker with the Department of Children and Families, who they stated had hosted the video call with a woman pretending to be Jacqueline after she had already been deceased. Shayna Hargrove, who is a social worker with DCF, stated, "I was persistently asking when she was returning to the home throughout my investigation." She says the focus of the investigation, prompted by an anonymous complaint, was on Mimi's sister, Nina. But she said that Carla Garcia, Mimi's mom, kept pushing back the date that Mimi was supposed to return to Connecticut. And for those that don't know, Jacqueline Torres-Garcia was affectionately referred to as Mimi as her nickname, so I'll continue to refer to her as Mimi throughout the rest of this to make it easier. DCF worker Shayna went on to say, "By that point, I asked for all the information for this time so that I could speak with her directly. That was when the video call took place, which turned out to be with a 22-year-old woman impersonating Mimi," which is shocking because, again, Mimi was 11 years old. The state asked, "Did you interview the person you were told was Jacqueline?" "Yes," she replied. Now, when somebody reached out from the media to DCF, the interim commissioner did reply, basically stating, quote, "Our social worker was not disciplined. Based on the information known to us, the mother fabricated information concerning her daughter's whereabouts, reporting that she was out of state at that time. However, as we all know, the daughter was already deceased when that story was told." Now, the last witness that came to the stand was an assistant superintendent with Farmington Public Schools, who confirmed that Mimi was homeschooled, while Nina, her sister, was going to school. Carla Garcia had also signed a photo release for Nina, but not for Mimi. The prosecutor posed that as an effort to conspire to keep her out of public view. And the state argued that the witnesses showed that Jonatan Nanita was involved in the kidnapping that subsequently led to the homicide of Mimi. They said he lived with Mimi Torres, he had access to Mimi Torres, his palm print was located on the exterior of the bin her body was stored and dumped. He admitted to being the person who dumped the bin, and he admitted to knowing Mimi was in the bin. Now, Jonatan Nanita's defense attorney, who is Michael Brown, shown here, stated there is a moral duty to do more than that, but as far as legal authority for the death of Mimi, that is not enough for these charges to go against him. He argued that there was no evidence that Nanita directly contributed to Mimi's abuse and that Garcia controlled the living situation. He said, "We have no evidence that he had any problem or ill will towards Mimi. There's no evidence that he hated her or wanted her dead or anything." His attorney also argued during the hearing that his client wasn't in a parental role, so he didn't have a duty to report the abuse the child suffered in the weeks leading to her death. Now, at the end of this hearing, the judge didn't come to an immediate decision. He took his time. It took a couple weeks. But when he did come back, he had a 50-page decision. And in that decision, he said that there was no evidence to believe that the girl, Mimi, was a participant in her own kidnapping and that she, quote, wanted to be zip-tied, locked in the basement, locked in her room, and be held in the dangerous environment. The judge also pointed out that Nanita didn't tell the 11-year-old's father that she was being held hostage when he came to the home wanting to see her, but was turned away. Jonatan Nanita had, quote, full knowledge that Mimi was being beaten, restrained, abducted, abused, and starved by the co-defendants, Carla Garcia and Jacqueline Garcia, and, quote, never attempted to stop the abuse. So naturally, the judge at the end of that 50-page document came to the conclusion that there was enough evidence to proceed with the several charges Jonatan Nanita was facing, including murder with special circumstances and felony murder, and the death of Jacqueline Mimi Torres-Garcia. That is where the case stands right now. Jonatan was supposed to appear in court this past week, it seems, but it looks like his attorney had a conflict with another case that he was working, so I will be following up on that and seeing what else is going on with Carla and her sister Jacqueline. But at least we know where we're at this point. I'm still just shocked by the fact that we knew somebody else spoke to DCF pretending to be Mimi, but I cannot believe that it's being said it was a 22-year-old woman. I thought maybe it was some other child, but a 22-year-old woman is insane to me to be played off as an 11-year-old. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you so much for tuning in, and what happens in the dark will always come to the light. Be kind to one another, stay safe, and as always, I will see you all in the next one.